I've had various conversations today with friends and contacts discussing recent events in the news. I'm sure many of you have also enjoyed discussions similar. The headlines are entertaining to say the least. CNN encouraging us not to remove cash from our banks. Trump declaring this Defense Production Act. And of course, Homer Simpson representing the United States government trying to fix the economy. I found that meme quite entertaining because governments trying to fix the economy is always a laughing matter. And then there was this headline on CNBC. I don't know how much credit to give this individual. I don't know if I've ever even heard of him before, this Bill Ackman, saying that hell is coming. And he has a dire warning for Trump and CEOs if drastic measures aren't taken now, and essentially claim that America would end or cease to exist as we know it unless they took drastic measures. He wants them to essentially shut the country down because of this kung fu flu situation. We all know, I'm not going to get into that. We're not going to get into the illness part of this or the fever and the cough and the people that recuperate and the 99% survivability rate or any of that. We're just not going to talk about that. It's not the purpose of this video. And it's also not the causation, in my opinion, of much of what we're seeing. I think it might be partially a scapegoat or an excuse or an event that was perfectly timed to where they could take advantage of the hysteria and the mainstream media's agitation of the event in order to execute financial movements and transactions at the global level to restructure and change the economic model. Who knows? That's just a far-reaching theory. A lot of reasons they can do what they do. These banks, we all saw what happened last time, 2007 and 8. We've covered that on this channel extensively. And we saw that blames was placed upon those banking and financial institutions. And it resulted in some discontent nationwide and globally. This time, that's not really as possible unless you really dug deep and understood the way economics works and the way the financial systems are structured. It's difficult for most people to find a way to place blame on banks and many of the large financial entities that are responsible for this fragile bubble that was popped by the pin of this illness. I was able to watch part of Peter Schiff's series lately where he discusses the pin that pops the bailout bubble that we've seen blown. And that's essentially what he's calling this. But he also said some pretty concerning things regarding the matter, that this was, in his opinion, the crash that he initially wrote about over 10 years ago, prior to the 2008 event, which was, as we all look at now, as being almost like a temporary blip, a tremor prior to the main quake. That Great Recession and the bailout that came out of it created it really did exacerbate the damage that would be caused because of the bailout that they ended up initiating back then, the quantitative easing programs. Being the largest debtor nation, the United States holding $23 trillion in debt and $1 trillion deficits yearly, it's essentially impossible for them to create any wealth or loan anything into existence at this point. The Treasury, the Fed, I think their hands are tied. They've already got interest rates as low as they go. We have seen them essentially become impotent. All of their injections of liquidity, their attempts to stave off disaster with the repo markets in the fall did not work. Every injection of capital that they have attempted to do so in the last 2 weeks to stave off disaster has not worked. The markets continue to decline regardless of these Fed interventions, as well as promises of this helicopter money. It's just not working. Nothing they're doing is working. I've got various stories that I could inject into today's, or I guess tonight's, phone discussion with you. I had a friend contact me this evening asking me, hey, should I purchase a shotgun? Lives in an urban area far from here. We had a discussion about that. I've again spoke with my friend who runs a silver shop and gold shop, precious metals dealer. We spoke today briefly about what they're experiencing as far as demand for metals and the disconnection between the paper price of metals and the physical price of metals. And we're still seeing that. And that led me down quite a rabbit hole as another friend of mine began searching for silver bars, ingots, and precious metals at some of the biggest sites, JM Bullion, SD Bullion, Provident Metals, APMEX. The two of us were unable to locate any silver bars available. Two theories. Yes, they could have pulled them off the shelves. They have them in stock. They just don't want to sell them at $12. Makes sense. I wouldn't either. If I had 1,000 silver bars on hand, I wouldn't sell them for the prices we're seeing. However, they do have other metal in stock and in inventory. If you type it into the box to check out, it tells you essentially how many of whatever item you're looking to get is still available in stock. Now, they could easily change that and say, hey, we don't have any silver in stock, but they do, and they just don't want to sell it at the prices they have it listed as, or what we see spot as, I'm sorry. There was some gold I saw that I think it was JM Bullion when we were there. They had 24 1-ounce Krugrands left in stock. I believe that was the site I was at. And the way I would do that search is I would just go to those sites, pick a particular product, type in 1,000, and then go to checkout, and it would stop you and tell you how many they actually had available, because none of them had 1,000 of any unit that we attempted to purchase. There were some pre-sales available, and then of course, there's the warning for shipping delays on many of these sites as well. So there's a problem there with the physical market, a lot of demand happening, and it makes sense when you look at the amount of money that's being created right now. A friend of mine, and I didn't have time to confirm it, so I'm not posting the screenshot of it, but he sent me a snippet showing all of the major increases in the money supply of various currencies over the last week or so. Everything from the yen to the US dollar, the pound sterling, the euro, the yuan, and so on. So there was a lot of currencies, a lot of central banks that are expanding their money supplies, creating money out of thin air to try to stave off this disaster. And we all know where that's going to lead, what's going to happen. I mean, it's snowballing. This is essentially one of the events that I think will define generations. This could be, a very long-lasting transfer, a way of either wealth preservation or wealth destruction, depending on what side you fall, as far as if you were prepared for it and how prepared you possibly were for it. Will the U.S. dollar go extinct as a result of this particular event? I don't know. I can't tell you any. I'll never say for certain things are going to take place, because honestly, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people never saw this coming. This event alone and the results of it, the things we're seeing take place, is more negative, more disastrous, more extreme, more volatile than I possibly imagined. When we knew there was problems, I mean, we all did. We saw it happening. We looked at it. We talked about it. We've been discussing it for years. We really saw it unraveling with the repo markets and the liquidity problems that we saw taking place in the fall. We've been talking about the debt for years, the bailout bubble, all of this stuff. We've been talking about it and watching it and just waiting. And who would have thought, that this illness would be that factor, that causation, that first domino to tip over and really cause the cascading events to just unfold and to see what we're seeing today. But again, I want to just say it's worse than I thought it was. It happened far quicker than I thought it was, much faster. The velocity in which this unfolded it's shocking. To this moment, it's still shocking. You can't even keep up with what you're seeing, the news cycle and what's happening as far as just all of the different ways governments are addressing various issues, and all of the efforts that are being made on various fronts to either control people, to control their movements, to see things like in California, in a place called San Jose, they forced gun shops to close up, to stop selling. They don't want them to sell firearms during this crisis. So you're seeing draconian measures take place, totalitarian measures take place, and you're seeing discussions even in California with Governor Newsom discussing things like with the National Guard and martial law taking place. So it's escalating fairly quickly, I think a little bit quicker than a lot of people anticipated. So next time somebody says, oh, you're negative, you should try to be a little more positive with this stuff, man. The economy's great. The future's going to be more productive than the past, man. That's what credit's all about. People are like that, but I'm sorry if I can't see the world that way. I tend to see the world more often than that as the flaws that are in it or the things that can go wrong, and looking for contingency plans or ways to protect or defend myself from certain types of events. And that's what this is. This is an event that you should have seen perhaps, or at least prepared in some way for. So there you go. There you have it. I mean, hope you have a good evening. I'm glad everyone tuned in here to the Junius Malpe channel for just a slight bedtime, discussion. I know many of you fall asleep when you listen to the channel, and I'm glad. That's good for you. It's the most boring channel on YouTube, so it's expected. But if anything, I would like all of you to just be mindful of, doing the right thing. It takes times like this, be encouraged to take care of the vulnerable, the weak, being a good neighbor, being a good citizen, good friend, but just doing the right thing, but also standing up for what is right and doing what is right at all times when you have to. And, just, again, continue to be calm, cool, and collected. Just do your job. Go to your job if you can. And, evaluate and make decisions based upon what you're observing around you. And as always, stay prepared for whatever may come. I know most of you are. Most of you are definitely are ready for different things. And as far as wealth preservation, I think some of you are doing quite well, especially if you've got your stacks going on. And again, that's not what it's all about. It's not just about having metal or having wealth. And there's more to life than all of that. But it's interesting to see what's unfolding and just looking back on the various discussions we've all had over the years regarding this type of situation. So we'll see where it ends up. Keep your eyes on the news, and of course, tune in for the more advanced and better programs when they do happen to pop up. But thanks for tuning in to each and every one of you, the most ardent supporters out there, the contributors, and all of you who are motivators and just part of this channel and really keep it going. Appreciate it. Thank you all, and have a good rest of your evening.